And with the number of departments, we're going to get started. I don't know who's here and who's not. If you're here and you have a statement or a question, please just identify yourself. This is the third and final joint meeting of the Boards of Finance and Selectmen for the purposes of reviewing operating budgets for various departments. And the first department this evening is the building department. Who is here to present that? Anybody?
Building official should be joining us.
Okay.
He indicated he would be on this evening.
Who, Andy?
Andy, yeah.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
I believe that's Kathy Trasky trying to call in.
Yeah, does anybody hear me?
It sure did there. You know, they're still pretty cool.
We can hear you, Kathy.
Okay, Andy's supposed to be there, so I'm waiting for him hopefully to sign in. Otherwise, I could try to tell you what we talked about, but you guys let me know.
Yeah, well, there's not a whole lot other than some increased salaries. Is there anything in particular you wanted to bring up?
Okay, we discussed this today, so you're right.
He just signed in. He's just signing in. Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait for him, and then otherwise I could tell you what we talked about.
Hey, Andy.
This is Andy Rizzo.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. So, sorry I'm late. I've been having a heck of a time signing in. So I apologize for holding you up. But I'll be very brief. Are you ready for my presentation?
Yeah.
Pardon? Yes?
Yes.
You're up.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm having a little trouble hearing. Let me make it louder. That's better. Okay. All right. So for the building department presentation, our budget for next year is going to be pretty flat. We've reduced two of our line items by 500 each, and the annual raises will be a total of just under $3,000. So our budget is going up. It's going up $2,975, and that's basically raises. Over the last year, since I took over as part-time building official, the part-time job has worked very well. I have no problems keeping up with everything at 4 hours a day.
Matt, remind people to mute. I think maybe Kathy's on her phone or something. It's very hard to hear.
Yeah, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So it has worked out very well. As you know, in April of this past year, we instituted our permit program, online permitting, which luckily coincided with having to close downtown hall. And it's worked very well. We worked out most of the kinks. We continue to do that. And as far as the number of permits issued, it's basically the same. Our income was about 197,000, which we are predicting for next year also. 200,000 in building permit fees and 2,500 in zoning permit fees. Other than that, our goal is just to continue to serve the people as best we can through the COVID. Inspections are going well. I'm doing anywhere from 2 to 6 inspections a day, depending on the load, but again, had no problem keeping up with that. I have nothing else. I will say that
I was going to say, if anybody has any questions for Andy? Anybody with questions for Andy? It's a pretty straightforward budget. Okay, hearing none. Andy, thank you very much. Good having
Thank you
on
again.
board.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, take care. Next on the agenda is Human Services. Let's see. Human Services, where is that? Human Services, and that is Jeanette.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I'm here with Susan tonight, the chairman of our Human Services Commission. Normally, we'd have a room full of commissioners and support behind us, but this format doesn't allow for that. So just know that they approved this budget unanimously at their January 4th meeting. This budget does clarify our revenue sources and puts them all into one line item. I worked with Tony to offset our expenses with our revenue. It would be easier to see that in a single stream. So we are clarifying our budget through doing it that way. The past year, the department has provided uninterrupted services despite the challenges and obstacles of the global pandemic. The staff continues to interact with an increase in number of households being served and is a vital point of contact for information, dissemination, and essential services. I just go over briefly some of the increases, decreases in the budget. We have decreased the part-time all other line item by $4,500 by moving the senior center exercise instructor from a part-time employee to the programs and publicity line item to be in line with all the other instructors that we hire through invoicing. The general professional services is going to increase a bit, $4,800 for purchasing frozen meals. We plan, despite coming out of a pandemic at some point, we plan to continue the frozen meals. They're an excellent option for those living independently, the seniors, to have these meals in times of need. And when we open our lunch program again, we will continue with the frozen meal option. But this increase will be offset by revenue. What they go out at is what we pay for them. So the increase will be offset completely. Quinnipiac Valley Health District, our health district has increased their rates by 25 cents per person based on a 2018 number of per capita residents, which equates to a little over $2,000, $2,200. Repair and maintenance is going to decrease by $600 as I became aware that there's no longer a requirement for drug testing for our drivers for the random drug testing, which was $600. Programs and publicity will increase with that exercise instructors' fees, and that sort of it's a balance there. Equipment rental, we were able to negotiate a better rate for our copiers, so we'll save $1,400 there. But our expenses in the office continue to need supplies. I'll be moving into a new office this year. We have a new senior center director and assistant, so we need a little bit of equipment for those hires. And e-gas, we're not using completely the allotment, so we are going to decrease that line item. In addition to working prudently with our budget, the Human Services staff has received through networking and grants a total of $181,480 in grant money and fundraising. And I'd just like to add to that figure that we received a $2,500 CARES Act grant last Friday. And that'll be used for COVID expenses such as hand sanitizers and touchless soap dispensers, things like that. But just overall, the BOF pre-pandemic FY21 proposed budget for the Human Services Department was $488,478. This budget is $489,954, which is a difference of $1,476, despite the 2.5% increase in salaries. So obviously, this is thought out, and we just we hope that you can grant it in its complete version. Susan?
Okay. I'm Susan Davis, as you all know, Chair of the Human Services Commission. As we all know, numbers speak. So tonight, I'd like to mention a few numbers. Seniors over 55 years of age represent approximately a third of our total population in Woodbridge. Almost 1,700 residents in Woodbridge are between the age of 65 and 74. In the 75 to 100-year-olds category, we have 750 seniors living independently in their own residences in Woodbridge. These seniors are aging in place. Additionally, there are 250 75-plus-year-olds living in the assisted living facilities in town. This department makes the goal of aging in place possible, helping to lower the tax burden in town by not adding to the school-age population. The global pandemic has closed town buildings and altered delivery of services. By reinventing themselves through virtual programming, socially distanced classes outside under tents, Wi-Fi lunches, and vital outreach to seniors and youth, Human Services has been busier than ever. March 2020 through December 2020, the staff provided outreach support and services to 11,478 times is they made a contact and services. Human Services has provided a lifeline to seniors as they deal with isolation, loneliness, food insecurity, lack of exercise, and how and where to receive the COVID vaccine. Much of time has been spent scheduling vaccine appointments in neighboring towns, and last Friday, having a vaccination clinic here in Woodbridge. Through Human Services provided opportunities to students to help in our community by participating in community service. Engagement and support is gained through an array of programs on challenges facing youth today. What has been accomplished? Staff of 6, and only 3 of the 6 staff members are full-time employees. I would like to note that this has been done this year with a reduced budget. Tonight, we are asking the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to recognize the importance of services provided by the Human Services Department and fully fund our budget. Thank you.
Are there any questions? There.
Thank you both for what you've done, particularly as it relates to the budget, Jeanette.
Thanks, Mika.
Jeanette, I just wanted to clarify. So the increase in personnel just restores where you were prior to the pandemic. And it adds back in the senior center director.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Right. Thank you. And again, thank you for all that you and your staff has done. I think to be able to have vaccinated 70 of our residents in town was a really monumental effort and wonderful service for them to be able to have. So thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Any other questions? Because I don't know quite how to do this, but we also have the Capitol tonight.
I just
So-
want to make a comment about you guys and the vaccinations. I've heard from lots of residents who I have either phoned me, emailed me, whatever, about how happy they were that we were able to do this for our seniors. And I'll talk about it next week at the Board of Selectmen meeting. And just kudos to all of you. I know it was a team effort and it was quick, and yet you had no notice, and up, down, on, off, on, off. And I think you did an amazing job to get that done. People are so happy. So thank you. And I think Woodbridge did pretty well compared to the other 168 other municipalities. We looked pretty shining. We did a good job.
Yes, we have a vaccine rate for the 75 plus of 43.1% right now, and the state average is 29.9, I think, 29.9. So we're looking better. Our percentage rate beats Orange and Bethany. Not that it's a competition, but we also are getting our 75-year-olds plus to other clinics, and our lives right now are getting people into appointments. Overwhelmingly, I sent a robocall out today to almost 700 seniors that we still haven't heard from. We identified. Stephanie gave us a census, and we had one of our part-timers put it into our Schedules Plus system, and we were able to send out a robocall today, and the phones lit up again. People who are just so grateful, who don't know how to manage the system, and we're here to do it for them. So we are quite pleased to be able to do that work.
Thank you.
I have one more comment. Susan, I was really enamored by the statistics that you presented, and I wondered if you would be willing to make those available to us as a reference.
Definitely.
Okay.
I do know the numbers speak, and I think I think they're pretty impressive.
They are impressive. Thank you.
Jeanette, did you say you had to do capital also?
I do. I don't know what Tony wants me to do with that.
You have 3 projects in your capital request.
Correct.
If you want to just go through them so that the boards understand the nature of the request and why you think it's important.
Sure. So the first request is one that's been in here and was pushed off, and it is $15,000 for 100 cafeteria chairs. The stack, though not being used currently, the stack outside Bobby's office grew quite large. They're unfixable, broken chairs. We really don't want seniors at any time using chairs that bolts fall out of and are torn and really aren't acceptable anymore. So we had the $15,000 in here for 100 cafeteria chairs. We do need them with arms. And we have pricing that allows for us to do that. They're washable chairs. They can easily be wiped down, which of course we need to continue to do. That's the first request for next year. Beyond that, I think all of you are aware that the center building does not have an air handling system. It's not that it's a poor air handling system. It is non-existent air handling system, so that unless the doors and windows are open, there is no exchange of air. We did hope that in the referendum that is going forward, I hope for the senior center, that we could install 2 split systems, one in the lounge and one in the cafeteria, that would allow for some exchange of airflow, obviously with a pandemic, but always, going forward, flu season, all of that. It is important to have a building that is modern enough to handle populations coming in, especially senior populations. So I'm hopeful that if there's a referendum, this number can come out, and that we can at least handle the senior center. And then eventually, part of this number could stay in, and we could talk about the second floor of the building for some sort of air handling system. I got this number through talking with Brad, and he thinks it's a pretty decent number for installing some sort of air system here in this building. And lastly, you've seen this before. It is a carport for our 3 vehicles. It matches the style of the PD carports with the snow like the one we saw. It would keep the vehicles from sitting in the snow, wear and tear and corrosiveness, but also a safety thing, measure for our drivers not to be cleaning off the roofs of these large vehicles, and that's in there for FY24. So that's as quickly as I can go through it. Are there questions?
Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Janelle. You're going to be back, right?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is library. Whoever is here for library.
That's me, I think. All right.
Eric, how you doing?
Eric, that's you.
I'm okay. How are you? Should I start?
Yep.
Okay. So our operating budget request for fiscal year 22 is actually pretty simple this year. It does 2 things. First, it focuses on restoring our budget to its pre-pandemic levels. And secondly, it adds in a certain amount of salary increases that are mandated by, I guess, the contract, and also there's a minimum wage increase coming up as well. So the budget does increase from our original pre-pandemic budget for this year by $11,688, or 1.4%, which brings it up to $848,512. That is from our original pre-pandemic budget of $837,224. A little background is that our budget was cut quite substantially, I believe, in May. It was cut down from $837,000 to $657,000 because of the pandemic, and because our services have obviously been pretty curtailed for the past almost year now. They will probably continue to be curtailed. So almost all of these budget cuts come from some part-time staffers who we haven't needed as much because we just haven't been doing as much. And so that was a 21.4% cut last year. Now that there's some possible end in sight to the pandemic, we're definitely thinking about trying to bring our services back to normal, bring ourselves back to where we should be. We're all very excited to do the things that we're here to do. And so we're hoping that we can restore, our full array of services and be open for our normal 54 hours a week, which is how much we've been open for the past at least 10 years, and that we can restore all the programming and other services. Obviously, there's no guarantee. It's all sort of a mystery as to what July 1st will look like, but it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that around that time, we could start doing this and opening up all of our old services and start thinking about some new services too. So that is the main thing. And again, there is a small increase in salaries, but that is really just the COLA and the minimum wage increase. Any questions about that?
The only comment I would make is, who knows? I mean,
well, of course.
Come July 1st, if we have, what do they call it, herd immunity? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Are people going to change their way of? Are they going to start running to the library? They're going to say, I'm not ready for that yet. And so how do you put a number on this? Obviously,
it is really hard. I do think that once people have a vaccine, they might start thinking it's a little safer to go out. And regardless, I think to open even just open for the 54 hours a week, we need to rehire a lot of those part-time people just to have the staff to staff the building and to do all those programs and stuff. So hopefully that can happen this summer if things go well.
Yeah. It's a tough call. It's a tough call for a lot of departments. You just don't know. I mean, recreation, for example, we'll be talking to them tonight. Same thing. I mean, July 1st, is everybody going to start coming back and doing all the programs they've done, or is it going to slowly come back? In the meantime, we're going to fund it 100%. So it's something we've got to look at, certainly, because we're staring at a pretty large tax increase. But we'll talk about that. Are there any other questions or comments for Eric?
I believe Jeanette was going to say a little something also, please.
Sure. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
So just in light of the significant decreases in staffing levels this past year, the current library staff must be commended for the innovative ways they've found to serve the community. The park and pickups, the express services when the library opened for a short while, and all their efforts with social media and the launch of their new website has allowed for increased availability of digital materials. Additionally, they have had Zoom programming, and when the weather was cooperative, they held outdoor programming. Talk about doing more with less. The commission voted unanimously in favor of this thoughtful and prudent budget, and we hope that you'll look favorably upon it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I should say this, that,
I'm sorry.
Just one thing I did want to mention specifically, she's right about the digital services. Our downloadable and streaming materials have grown by over 30% since last year. So people are still using library services, even if they're not necessarily coming to the library as much. And those digital materials are not cheap. Just they're actually way more expensive than print materials. So it has been tough to keep up with that demand, but we've been doing it so far.
Okay. Questions, anybody? Comments? Okay, guess not. Thank you very much. Jeanette, you're still hanging around, right? I mean, is there anything you don't do in town? I mean, you didn't.
Actually, I think
you didn't do it. You opened the snowplow truck this year.
I think I'm going home now. Thank you very much.
You're not registrars anymore? No?
Not for, no, almost 5 years. Thank you very much. That's someone else's headache now.
Okay.
All right, thank you
very much.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next is town clerk.
Hi, everybody. Well, unlike the other departments, we spent more money this year than we did the year before and the year before that. We've had quite a year. All of our land records and our maps are online. Our land records are back to 1937. Most everyone has been able to access all of that information online, and we've also been helping people by the door. We have death certificates, marriage licenses, and birth certificates that need to be handled, in person. So those, we've been there the whole time. We spent a lot more money this year because of the presidential primary and the presidential election. I did write 3 grants, and we got back about $16,000 in grant money from different places, as Secretary of State and different organizations. And I also wrote a grant for our land records for $5,500. So we had some money coming back. It was a very difficult year. It was very overwhelming at times, but we made it through. We had a great staff. We had to hire extra people and put everybody extra, give them extra hours. But we still have the Maytown election, the Amity referendum, and whatever other referendum should come up this year. And we were also very busy with house sales and refinancing of mortgages. We've taken in almost $700,000 so far this year. Most of it, 3/4 of our money, probably will take over $1 million this year again. 3/4 of it will go to the state, but we are a pretty busy office besides elections. And it doesn't look like there's any end in sight. The houses are still selling right through the winter. So we're taking in extra money for that to cover. So hopefully we'll cover for other departments too. The state has planned for us new elections modules. They're updating our election CVRS, and I don't know how much that's going to cost. They've just told us that they're looking into doing that this year. We also have a new death registry coming. So there's going to be all training we're going to need for those things. I've left more money in the elections line item. And we're, the new funeral directors, medical examiners, and our offices all went through training once before for this new death registry plan, and it failed. Hopefully this one will work, and we'll see if we have a better outcome. But that's about it. And hopefully this year will be better.
Okay, any questions for Stephanie? Pretty straightforward budget, I guess.
Just thank you for you and your team, and also the registrars as well. I know Anna's still there, and I see Pennell. You guys all did an amazing job. I know you have a couple more coming up, but it was fabulous. I mean, who could predict in the middle of a pandemic?
They did a wonderful job. They really did a wonderful job. It was a lot of work for them, for everybody.
Yeah. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And the famous ballot box.
Oh, please. It's going back out again. It'll go back out again for the election.
I know.
In May.
Thank you. Thank you. Tell your staff as well. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yeah. They were wonderful. They really were. They had a really busy days, but they did great.
You made it very easy for all of us to participate in the election, and that's what's important.
Right, and nothing went wrong, at least that we know about in public. I didn't,
Well, you don't know about
behind the scenes. I don't want to know. We don't want to see how the sausage is made. You do that.
Some of the stuff that we purchased, though, unfortunately, a lot of the scanners and the different things that we purchased for that election we're not able to use for the May election or a referendum or anything. It was just for federal election. So quite a bit of money that we have had to spend, unfortunately. But we'll see what happens with the new forms that we have to do. We'll see.
Stephanie, is there any way that we can appeal to the state to make use of the investments that we made?
I can't even tell you, I probably have 50 boxes of materials left over from the elections because they gave us way too much. We have 7,000 voters. They gave us 21,000 pieces of paper for 7,000 voters. I don't even know what I'm going to do with those. And federal funds funded all of that. Now they have no funding left. All of the envelopes that I have postage paid on them. They have a barcode on them. We can't use the barcode any longer. All of those boxes, I'm waiting to see if they're going to tell us to throw them away. They say COVID on them. They haven't passed the COVID law up until May for the May election. They're only looking at March, or April, which doesn't include us. So we won't be able to use any of those materials. We have enough of our own that we had already ordered, but it's just such a waste of money. And the scanners, we have scanners for all the computers. We have a new laptop. We got all new equipment for this election per the Secretary of State, but we have to wait and see what can happen. I don't think we'll be able to use a lot of it. I know we won't be able to use it for the May election, but we'll see after that.
Okay, any questions for Stephanie? Hearing none. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And registrars.
Hello. Hi, it's Anna. Anna and Pennell is a new registrar.
Yes, I guess I inherited Jeanette's headache, but actually it's been a joy. And Anna is here, and I'm going to just start off. I apologize. We're going to go back and forth, and I'm sure the transitions are going to be inelegant because there's no good way to do it on WebEx, but just bear with us. I have a little admin to start off with. New guy on the block, so I made a mistake. We actually have a decrease in the budget because we did some double counting in the wage line. I talked to Tony about it this afternoon. He just told me to tell you what it is. So our wage line is going to decrease by $3,156. to 37,041 from 40,197. And so the total budget, if you want to write it down, will go down to 49,720. And that's my bad. We double counted some training hours. So, everyone got that?
I'd like to make a couple of. I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback on my thing here. I'd like to make some general comments. This past year, as you know, was extremely difficult. We had 3 elections and a referendum under the COVID-19 precautions, which meant we had to hire a considerable amount of extra staff. We also had an increase in voter registrations during summer and the fall because of the presidential election. And we had some training of new personnel. Pennell is going to talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to come back with a couple more. So we'll switch over to Pennell again.
So our overall budget request is down 22,000 from the adopted budget last year, and a little over 30,000 from the actual expenditures, which includes some grant money, I believe, by the way, in the actual expenditures. And the major factors driving the budget decrease are, well, fewer elections in the FY22 cycle. In fact, we're only planning for 1 referendum. There are no other elections in the cycle. We expect that'll be a more normal election than the previous ones. We won't have to, hopefully by the time that election is around, that referendum comes around, we won't be doing COVID-19 precautions. So we'll be able to do it with fewer personnel. And also voter registrations were up substantially, I think, due to the presidential cycle. And so there's a lot of extra work this fall that we think that'll be down too as a result of this. And I'll sort of turn it back to Anna because there are some factors going the other way.
There's some factors which are pushing the budget upwards. There's need for registration certifications for few of them, well, mostly for Pennell. He has to complete a certification. There are also a couple of additional units that I will be taking. We will have some training for some of our who are expiring. And we should hopefully have a resumption to live conferences and training, which will be some additional hours. Also, our Canvas this next year will be considerably more robust because of all the absentee ballots that were returned that the Secretary of State sent out. A few notes from the non-salary lines. Repair and maintenance is up due to a need for tabulator maintenance. Postage will be up because we're going to have the extensive voter canvas. And office supplies are up due to switching a lot of our copying from other printers to our registrar's office. We just got a new printer that will allow us to do some copying and scanning, which is going to be really great. We don't have to bother the town clerks anymore. But I think that fiscal year will be quite quiet because we don't have any major election that year. But that's it, I think, for us.
Okay, any questions at all for Pennell or Ian?
We are passing forward the number for the e-poll books because Secretary of State still has not validated any of them, so we can't go to e-poll books at this time. So we're just kind of push that number forward to the next year again. Hopefully we'll be able to do something.
Okay, anything else?
This is Beth. I would just again thank you in case you didn't hear it about a great job this year. It was very difficult.
Well, I have to
thank you.
Oh, Beth, I was just going to say, as the new registrar, I would have died if Anna hadn't been there. So I really have appreciated her.
Okay.
I have a little PTSD, I think, but that's okay. I'm coming out of it.
All right. Thank you very much.
They have wine for that. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I can't take wine. I'm taking meds, so.
Shut up.
Okay. Tony, do you know, is recreation ready, or can we move on to a few of these other little ones?
Recreation is here, and I believe ready and waiting.
Okay.
I see Jim Franco and John and Andrea. So,
Okay. The floor is theirs.
We're here. Hello? Hello? Anybody there?
You're up, Jim. You're up, John.
Yeah, get going. We're here.
Okay, well, we're over here. All right, the budget is the same budget that we had in 2019. Nothing changed except for minimum wage went from $11 to $13, and then all other people got a 2.5% raise. We added nothing to the recreational budget except for the raises and what we had to do to match with the $13 per hour. And last year we cut out the entire summer camp. We cut out the entire after-school program. But this year we're not. This year we're going to be running. We can run a smaller camp, a half camp at Beecher Road School. I talked to the superintendent. We're all set, and we're going to be we're working together on having that program. And the tent is going up at the Allegri property, and we're going to be running after-school programs. We've already started with cooking and different things. We have people, we're lining up people to be there. So we'll do a 4 to 6 program every day. So we'll have after-school programs. We're also going to cut $50,000 from the budget that you see. So our budget that we put in for is $627,304 will now be $577,304. We're cutting out a lot of the staff for the summer camp. And that's basically it. So we're dropping our budget down by $50,000.
So, John, are you running pretty much the same programs you did before the pandemic started? Or you restored all those back? Or
Yes, right now we have. Well, we restored them back the best we can. We have our Tuesday, Thursday night basketball leagues. We have a Saturday basketball league program. We put on gymnastics, but we didn't get a good turnout for it, so we decided not to run it because it would cost more to run it than money taken in. So we are going back slowly, like 10 people per group we're allowed to have, and our basketball camps are filled. We separate the teams. There's nobody allowed inside. We follow all CDC recommendations for the COVID virus.
Outdoor program.
And we have an outdoor program on Saturday. We're running. The kids love the football program, so we decided to extend it. And now we have a Green Bay Packer field in the back here, running the program. So we are trying to get back slowly but surely. We're trying to get back little by little. We're adding programs.
The pool's open on the weekends.
Yep, pool's open on the weekends, and WAC is back in. WAC is back in the program. Locker rooms are not open. You come dressed. You have to sign up for the pool, which has been excellent. People calling up, signing up for their times, coming in, and following all the COVID rules and regulations.
okay.
Can I just add, this is Andrea. John's worked really hard with the budget and to work within the confines of providing safe programming during this time of COVID, but still able to offer some virtual and these in-person programs. And hopefully we'll be able to run full capacity sometime within the next year, depending on what's happening.
Teresa's doing a great job with our virtual. We've been running the virtual since the beginning of this thing happened, and we got all kinds of programs out there, and we're running everything we can.
Yes. And Anna, for your PTSD, there's yoga programming. It's very therapeutic.
Are there any questions for John or Andrea? No? Okay. That was pretty simple.
They also did a fantastic job. Everybody did. I mean, it was amazing during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is information systems. Tony, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the information systems is an area where we had to request increases in some funding. I'll go over some of those details for you. The first is on software upgrades. That's our subscription to Microsoft 365, which was installed last year. It is very helpful to us, allows us the portability, yet the security of that. And those of you who have it, hopefully you agree, but we think it's a wonderful addition to our software. The software maintenance is simply all of our packages that we have with different departments. There's a list in your budget book, and a lot of those, there's not much we can do, but I'll just give you a flavor. That includes our Munis system, which is our financial package, the assessor software, the building official software, our tax collector, the human services scheduling software that she mentioned earlier is in there. Our website is in there. A new addition at the bottom of the list this year is we're looking to have a digital budget book and a digital online presence for our budget process. And so there is software for that, which will tie into our financial package. So that's $9,500. We've gotten some pricing on that. That's some one-time included in there of some one-time costs. I believe the annual maintenance is not nearly as much, but that's to provide an online budget document, an online budget process with days of having a book are coming to an end. And it'll contain links and backup materials and graphs and charts and be able to give the users more of an understanding. That's what it's all about, is to give the users more of an understanding of where their money goes and how it's spent. So that's an add to that line, which is why it goes up 4.5% is the additional digital budget book information. The other area that we have included is in the data processing, and that's still a work in progress, but we're under constant threat of cybersecurity, as most of you are aware. And so that's one area where we have to stay ahead of the curve and try to do everything we can to make sure that we don't have any cybersecurity issues here in town. So that includes, so that's where that line goes up. We're still trying to formulate that, but I just wanted to put some funding in there for the time being. As you know, we rely on a third party. We do not have an IT staff member. So we have to rely on a third party, and Betsy there's a lot of work with that, and myself, and so we do need assistance, and that's what that's for.
Okay. Any questions for Tony on information systems?
You successfully moved us all to paperless budgeting.
Right.
So it's now time for the rest of the town to join in, right?
Okay, next is finance. I think that's you, Tony, also.
Yep.
I hope so, anyway.
Yep.
Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, go ahead. It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. I just want to comment on finance. This is probably our second or third year. We're down one position. As you know, we used to have 4 members in our finance department. Now we have 3, and part-time borrower employee from another department. So we were able to eliminate a full-time position in finance. We're still able to accomplish through efficiencies and restructuring of duties all of our obligations. And additionally, we also provide the part of the accounts payable process. We provide support to the Board of Education. So we are always looking to help and become more efficient. And so I just wanted to mention that.
You've made great strides in that area, Tony. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Benefits, 1710.
So benefits are largely a reflection of staffing levels in other departments. So as you had increased the part-time salaries in the library, for instance, and in recreation, there is a a corresponding increase in FICA and Medicare to pay for those salaries. So, whatever decisions you make in the budget process for those departments, and also the senior center director, that was a half-time position, now funded half-time for the current year, and then it was increased to full-time. Whatever decisions you make in those departments will have an impact on several of these lines, but particularly the first two for part-time employees. The retirement is 16% match and 22% match, respectively, for the town and for police. We have a limited ability to change that based on the town entered into the MERS program, I think it was in the 50s, maybe. And it's very difficult to leave that program once you are in it. And they have increased some of the contributions from employees a little, but you have to provide an equal to or better than system in order to leave the MERS program, and you have to fully fund your obligations that are in it. So it's a very high bar to set to be able to leave that. So we're trying to make changes to the program through the legislative process. It's probably the only way that'll happen in the short term. So anyway, those are the contributions to retirement. And the state's part of it. For those of you who don't know, the state's part of a state of Connecticut Municipal Employee Retirement Fund, which is a defined benefit program, typically along the lines of a typical pension. Health insurance, I have in my budget here for the town a 15% increase, and as opposed to 17, I have the benefit of a little extra time than the Board of Ed has. The reason why you don't see 15% increases across the board are for several reasons. First of all, we had some coverage changes as staff turns over. Coverage changes were in our favor this year. Secondly, we had an increase in premium share and a decrease in the amount of the deductible that we fund for employees. So those combined to have a 12 and a 7% increase for police. So as we go through the budget process, we'll have more information on healthcare. Healthcare is, particularly this year, is all claims based, and we had a horrible claims year. So that's why the increase is where it is at. Finally, and I kept the OPEB contribution at $55,000 until we emerge from the pandemic, and we can better evaluate where we are with that and how much we'd have to contribute. As you all know, we eliminated health care for our new employees, retiree health care, back several years ago. So that liability continues to decrease. And the Board of Education actually just did it recently with the teachers. So there are now no bargaining units that have that benefit. So we will continue to see that obligation be reduced in future years, which is, I think, a huge thing. And then finally, we have our workers' compensation. So those are our benefits. This is a constantly evolving budget, and some of the pricing doesn't come in until later in the process. I don't know if there are any questions or comments.
No questions? Okay. Debt service, Tony?
So debt service has a rather significant reduction this year. It's almost $600,000. So that's a very helpful thing. There are two main reasons why our debt service reduces. The first is we've paid off the 2000 bond issue. For those of you who were around when we took out that bond issue, I believe the major item was the Elderslie Preserve. But there were a few other items in that bond. I think there was that was the largest amount. So that was paid off. So you'll see it's part of the 2015 refunding, goes from 875 to 505. The second is when we went out to bond the country club, we received a large amount of premium on that borrowing. And so what we did was, instead of taking in the premium, we reduced the amount of par that we borrowed for the country club, so that we would take advantage of the savings through the borrowing as opposed to just taking in the money. So you'll see that the $350,000 principal for the country club is actually $225 this year because we had that premium. The premium was that we were able to reduce the essentially use the premium to reduce the amount of bonds that we had to actually borrow. So that's why that's a little less. You can see the interest is also at 206. Those are the reasons I want to.
So Tony, the interest almost doubled, but the principal payments went down by 125,000.
Yeah, that's correct. The principal is because we weren't sure on the timing. It's actually 18 months worth of principal in there when we did the borrowing, because we weren't sure. Normally, we would have had to pay an interest payment this January.
Mm-hmm.
It's 6 months after the borrowing, so we did the borrowing in July, right? So normally we have an interest payment in January, but because we weren't sure what we were going to do when we were in the budget process, we put 18 months of interest in next year's budget. Plus, I knew that there was a drop off in the debt service because of the payment of the 2000 bond issue, so it wasn't going to have an impact on the increase in the budget.
Okay, so then for the next year, the interest will go down. That's
Correct.
what you're saying.
That's
okay.
Correct. The year after that, I have it here actually. 123 is the following year.
Okay.
So it goes down significantly.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
On the subject of the country club, I'd just like to spend just a minute on something that's been bothering me, and quite frankly, a few people have asked me about it, and that is the constant reference in the newspapers to the Orange purchasing the Raceboro Country Club, and how the Woodbridge purchase of the Woodbridge Country Club was a debacle. That's the word that's been tossed around. And I just find that, I find it very interesting that they're throwing that out at Woodbridge. They've got the time to talk about this, to vote on it, and all this. For those of you who don't remember, the Woodbridge Country Club came to us in February of the year that we bought the club to inform us that they were going bankrupt and they were going to sell the property, and if we wanted to buy it, we'd have to get on board. And so it was a mad rush to take care of that. We had Ed Sheehy, of course, was first selectman then. I remember he called me up and said, "Oh my, this came out of nowhere." We had no idea that this was going to happen. So we had a mad rush to buy the property. And to this day, I'll say, and I know most people in town probably agree, that it's something we had to do. What I find interesting about Orange's situation is that they're buying everything, all the assets of this of the Raceboro Country Club, which is in financial distress. I can say that because I'm a former member and I was on the finance committee. They're not setting the world on fire. Now, when this is all done, Orange is going to own everything. So when the Raceboro Country Club decides they need to redo their sprinkler system for $800,000, and they go to the bank's going to say, "Well, you don't own anything, so why would we lend you the money? Orange owns everything." So I'd be very careful, and I'm somewhat upset that the terminology that our purchase of the Woodbridge Country Club has been a debacle. What's been a debacle, if you want to call it that, is the fact that we just can't get people to agree to try and produce some revenue from the club. And I don't consider that to be a debacle. I consider that to be democracy. I mean, the people of the town decide, no, we don't want to put 55 and over housing. We don't want to do anything. But we do own the country club. So I've just been a little put off by the Orange elected officials calling Woodbridge a debacle. Trust me, we didn't bail out of business. They're bailing out the Raceboro Country Club because the Raceboro Country Club cannot pay their debt every year, and they're in trouble. They're definitely in trouble. So I'd be careful with that, because I think when if this goes through, and quite frankly, I don't think it's going to go through. I'd be very surprised if the Orange voters vote for it. But if they do, I'd be careful, because they're going to find themselves in a debacle themselves in bailing out a country club when the people of Orange can't play golf there and they have no interest in anything there. So just wanted to bring that up because I have had a few comments about it, and I just don't agree with using us as an example of a debacle, and theirs is going to be such a well thought out decision, which is going to end up going right in their face as far as I'm concerned. So that's that. I just wanted to bring it up because I'm tired of hearing about it. The final item on the agenda is revenue, and we had a sheet that Tony sent through. You want to just run through this, Tony?
Can I ask one more question in terms of the debt service?
Certainly.
And
Yeah.
that has to do with the impact of the future town debt.
Okay.
Basically what's on this chart is $272,000 that would need to be paid in fiscal year 22 for a $3.3 million bond issue. So one of the things that we talked about was how to make that bottom line number not have any increase in it, Tony. And I was wondering if you could share how that might happen. Maybe this isn't the appropriate time to talk about that, but I think it's something that
I could give you
us would be interested in.
I can give you a couple of suggestions.
Okay.
First, obviously, one way to do that is to reduce the amount you borrow, clearly, from 3.3 down to some lower amount. You can also, if you structure it differently, and reduce the impact of the first year.
Okay.
There are limitations on what we can do in terms of the legally, but there are some options to structure it a little differently in the first few years to impact the borrowing later in the cycle. Of course, what that does is increase the total interest of the bond overall because you're delaying paying principal, but it helps you in the short term. So if your goal is to short term to save, to even out the impact, then if you wait a little extra in the long term, you can do that. And it's done. I mean, it's not uncommon to do that in many towns.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to run through the revenue, Tom?
Like so we don't have any information on the state grant section yet. So we are waiting for that. I believe that's next week, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the 10th, maybe, or the 7th, 10th, probably. So as soon as we find out that information, we will let you know. The department charges, a couple of things to bring to your attention. First is that, as Jeanette indicated, the senior program fees are increased from $2,500 to $22,400 as she's reallocating and changing the structure of how she's charging for meals. The recreation is increased from $46,000 in the pandemic to $96,000. So in addition to their increase in their budget, you have to factor in the fact that their revenues will go up $50,000. So that's good news there. We've also increased conveyance taxes in town clerk fees to reflect the fact that Stephanie is a little busier these days. Interest income is one thing that we're continuing to monitor. The budget currently is at $100,000. That's when I first was putting this together. I'm not even sure we'll get close to that, so we have to reduce that even further. But we can discuss that as we move forward. That's something to watch. The rates have not changed one bit since we've started this process. And finally, the Amity surplus funds dropped from $671,000 to $611,000. I just want to point out for the following year's budget, it's important to keep an eye on that figure because that's a rather significant amount. So if that's reduced, that's clearly will have a big impact on the following year's budget. I just want to
Tony, why did that drop?
Well, every year they have a surplus and they votes to allocate, whatever they have left to the three towns. So it was $220,000 in fiscal year 20. In fiscal year 19, it was $981,000. Right, it's almost $1 million. Then in 20, it was $220,000, $671. Now it's $611.
Oh, okay.
For 4 years. So.
Oh, the 671 didn't go to in 1 year to 611. It's 2 separate years for that.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Okay, thank you.
So that's just something to keep. That's probably the one area that we have some that's volatility in our budget is that one line, because we never know from year to year what that's going to be. It's unpredictable. I think a little bit of volatility, given the level of our fund balance, is okay. I just wanted to mention that. In the next few months, I plan to put forward some different policies that I think are important to review, including one-time revenues and structurally sound budgeting, and there's a whole handful of policies that we follow, but we don't have them in policy form. I think it's important to put those down in writing so everyone understands that. But that's an example of a one-time revenue that you have to keep an eye on.
Right. I think that's a great idea, Tony. Putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
And as far as the 611 that we're anticipating for this year,
right?
Obviously,
so
we're going
to just so we can do on timing, so we get the timing. That was last year's audit that they give us this year,
right?
That we put in next year's budget,
right?
Okay.
But I'm still glad that we have that, given the increase that's projected for Woodbridge for Amity.
Right, definitely.
So that's kind of our hedge against that if we don't use that for anything else.
Right.
So
I just don't know what they're looking like for next year. I just wanted to mention.
Yeah. For next year, it could be zero.
Could be. Right.
Yeah.
They're becoming less and less apt to want to return money to the towns, and it's causing a lot of problems with Orange and with me. They've as I've outlined several times, it's just a changing. I think the new superintendent she's now saying they can hold 2% of their budget in a capital non-recurring, which is close to $950,000, which they never kept before. And they kept other things. They added to the health insurance reserve fund. We fought them and we're not winning, and a lot of that has to do with a change in administration and a lack of understanding that when there's money left over, it's the taxpayers' money that's left over. It's not their money that's left over. So, but it's an ongoing battle, and Orange is really taking the battle to the forefront. So we'll see. We're going to have a meeting, I think, February 24th, when we're going to vote on their budget, and Orange is looking for a 0.45% increase. They have brought their increase down from 4.75 to something like 3.73, Tony, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So they're working on it, and they realize they're not getting even that. So we'll see. More to come on that. Anything else here? So at that point, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, there have been some changes from the numbers that we started out with when we began this budget process, but it's still around a 7% increase, Tony, correct?
It's 7 point. So I changed the Amity figure to reflect what we heard at the budget presentation. So the new variance is 7.36 increase, 7.3.
John just announced 50,000 tonight.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there yet.
Right, and also I think that's registered. Anyway, it's around 7%. So, as the Board of Selectmen goes through their process and we go through our process, certainly, I don't think I have to say that the people of Woodbridge are not going to be accepting a 7% tax increase. So we've got work ahead of us. A lot of these departments that are moving back to pre-pandemic budgets, that's fine and dandy, but is that really going to be the case? Are people just going to once July 1st rolls around, they're just going to run back to all these programs and say, everything's good? I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a slow process to get people to get back into these things. And so we're going to have to take a long, hard look at these budgets and see, because 7% is no way is acceptable.
I also want to mention that the capital, of course, is $1.5 million above last year's. Right. While it could come back, underfunding capital for many years in a row can come back to you at some point.
Yep.
You have to pay attention to that, not continually underfund it, but that's a significant variance.
Yeah.
So
Board of Finance, we meet, our regular monthly meeting, I think, is February 19th. Karen, is that a Thursday? When's the important meeting when we do the budget? So March something? Do you have it in front of you, Karen?
I have it here.
I believe it's March 4th.
something like that. Yeah. So Board of Finance, keep that in.
March.
Matt, just a quick question. Though. In terms of like you were saying, and I couldn't agree with you more in terms of the number that you threw out there, but how much of that is, the lion's share of what we heard in terms of increases is to do with salaries and labor negotiations, what was negotiated already and is going to happen. How much of that is quote unquote controllable or discretionary or whatever whatever word you want to use for that versus what is going to be just a labor increase?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, I think the belief we have in the Board of Selectmen are we just going to for example, just fund the budget 100% of what it was, thinking that July of 21 through June of 22 is going to be a year like every other year, or are we going to say we need to maybe not fund it as much because we don't think people are going to come running back? We're going to have to look at it very carefully, department by department. Yeah, I mean, the regular departments who haven't increased staff, they're getting their increases. But those departments that were severely reduced and impacted by the pandemic, we got to take a look at them if we're just going to treat July 1st as the start of just a normal year. I don't know how you do that, but let's be honest about it. We're learning a lot of things for the first time. I don't know. But again, I don't know that we can. We've got to get this thing down for sure. So we'll see about the capital. Tony will go through all these and come up with his own ideas, and then from there we're going to have to see one by one.
I think the Board of Selectmen, we make our recommendations on, it looks like February 23rd. Is that right, Karen? We have to meet that Tuesday night. So those
That
who are
sounds right.
listening.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So that's when we begin to sharpen our pencils. And
what I'll need from the Board of Finance is when we meet on the 19th, I'd love to have some guidance from you as to what we want to give Amity, how much we're willing to accept from Amity for an increase. Like I said, Orange is pushing for 0.45%. From what I could gather, Bethany is not far off of that, and so we'll talk about that Board of Finance on the 19th, and we're going to have to come up with a figure that Woodbridge is willing to accept. So keep that in mind as we get closer to that.
I mean, Matt, do you have some number in your head? You did last year.
Yeah. I kind of said 1%, and that's not going to be met with a lot of. But she's going to hear it. They're going to hear it from all three towns because we've already discussed. All three towns have been in contact with each other. I've been talking to the chairman of the boards of the three towns, the other two towns, and it's just we're going to have to cut it down, and 1% is going to really cause some screaming and yelling, but something we've got to look at and go from there.
Now, what about for Woodbridge? Do you have a percentage that you're pushing towards?
I really haven't given much thought. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that at the Board of Finance level. I'm not in favor of giving them 100% of what they're requesting. I'll say that.
Oh, well, I don't think you'd find too much disagreement amongst this group.
Right.
The question is where, and should we be trying to manage towards a number?
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll all be looking at it, so we'll talk about that. Is there anything else? Well, it's been an enjoy. It's funny. I said at the last meeting, I don't know if we're going to meet Tuesday. If it's bad weather. And of course, I forgot that we don't have to go to town hall to have the meeting, so it's not even an issue anymore. But old ideas die hard, I guess. But thank you everybody for your participation and cooperation, and we got a lot of work ahead of us, and so give it some thought, and we'll be ready. I hope. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye now. Bye.
walking along the shaky tightrope line. Oysters, banana peel, and dirty rats. So when it's right, it's tight, and I like it like that. With your umbrella by your side, the sandbags to quell the rising tide. There are fairies and demons by your side. You cannot believe your eyes. No, back at the day, coffee grind. The clock tick-tocks away the time. Play your cards and roll those dice. But when it's right, it's tight, and I like it like that.